Ready to go racing for the first time of two races here this weekend in the Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup. Of course, it's a muggy day here as we get ready to go racing. Qualifying already complete and everyone in position and ready to go. Obviously, with those conditions, it is tricky out there, as much as it might not be that extreme heat we sometimes get at this time of the year, even though later on in the year it's that mugginess. And inside the car, when you're throwing the car around, not going to be an easy one for the drivers to deal with. Of course, we've got joined us in the Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup before. Mike Thompson is the championship leader at present, and of course, we'll be starting this race from a solid position. We'll take a look, though, at the starting order. Of course, it's Max Watt starting from pole position alongside Faye Noble-Evans on that front row. Of course, a previous champion of the series. Ben Grucock will start from third, with Matthew Shears starting from fourth place. Behind that, it's Barrington Darcy, one of the top five in the championship. Alongside is Stuart Warner, before we get to Brennan Hafner and Martin Mason in that eighth position. Behind that, on row number 5, it'll be Tony Levy and, of course, Tom Hale starting from just inside the top 10, with Eric Bridges starting from 11th, and Simon Dye will be starting from the 12th position. Then the 13th position, it's Craig Horvath, and then, of course, Avon Nolan, and then David Hussey in 15th. There'll be a little bit of a jump back to Mike Thompson. He'll be starting from 16th, but back on row 9. Bertie Bream starting alongside in 17th. And then, of course, it is Scott Evans and Perry Darling down in a 19th position. So a few cars, those ones at the back, the Mike Thompson, Bertie Bream, Scott Evans and Perry Darling, have all been given back of the grid drops for technical infringements, and the car number 6, which is Mike Thompson, that was for speeding in the pit lane, so that's a whoops. Of course, for someone who is up there in the championship, certainly not the best indeed. So they're all moving their way into position, getting ready for 25 minutes of racing. The championship order for the top 5, Mike Thompson, of course, starting from down the order, first in the championship on 187 points. Second in the championship is Perry Darling, also back at the field, second on 173. Means it's a good opportunity for the likes of Barrington Darcy, who is a fair way back in the championship on 139 points. In 5th in the championship, though, a perfect opportunity to maybe throw themselves into the mix and maybe back into the title fight. Obviously, that might be getting a little bit too far ahead of ourselves, as the green flag is waved at the back end of the field, and the first race of the weekend here in the Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup is about to get underway, and we'll see who's leading down into the first corner. The red lights come on and then they go out, and we are once again racing. Faye Noble-Evans there on the right hand side in the black and pink car, seeming to get a slightly better start than Max Watt, who's going to cover off down into the inside of the first corner at number 23, the yellow and black car. So Watt leads from Noble-Evans. Ben Grucock was trying to get down the inside for third spot, and there is a car going out wide there as well as they head their way through the opening corner of the racetrack. I believe that might have been Tom Hale in the number 46. It is indeed, though, Watt leading from Faye Noble-Evans as they work their way down the stretch that goes along Lakeside, and of course into the fast left-hand before they get their way into the Shell Oils hairpin. As they all dart their way through, flick it through the left-hander, get it heavily onto the brakes. There is a look at the battle for third position. It is Grucock still ahead of Shears. That first, second, third and fourth are as they started in this race. I think Barrington Darcy has gone back from 5th, I believe, to 7th, maybe even lower than that. We'll have to get an update on that in a moment's time once we get the timing updated. But that is interesting that potentially Barrington Darcy, who was in a good spot to maybe pick up some spots, might have dropped back a touch in the number 27 car. Because moving up, that is Mason, who is in 5th position at the moment, having moved up in that red car. Barrington Darcy's in a silver. It almost looks like almost looks like a martini livery. Oh, actually no, it's a black. There you go, it is a martini livery. He's down into 6th position then after the race start. So Watt's leading and is running away. That's the important bit at the moment. Watt is running away from Faye Noble-Evans as they work their way up towards Druids, flicking it through the double right-hander. Barrington Darcy trying to find a way back inside the top 5. Must be a slightly different livery than what I've normally seen on that Boxster, but still going on the attack and trying to find that way through. We head our way down into Lodge, fills up the mirrors at the moment of Mason, and gets his way down the inside. So That is Barrington Darcy back up inside the top 5. Mason, who started from 8th position, is down to 6th, despite moving up inside the top 5 for a brief moment there. But the first lap is complete, and it is Watt leading from Noble Evans, from Brucock, from Shears, from Darcy, the top 5. Mason in 6th position with Warner, then Hafner, and then Levy and Hussey, the top 10 at the moment, as we looked at the battle between Hafner and Levy, who Levy's the one who's got down the inside and has got his way up into 8th position. So the number 60 working up a position at the moment, and just trying to work their way up the order bit by bit. Of course, some of those drivers from the rear end of the field that are trying to work their way up after the qualifying issue. The 64 of Hussey's getting up to 10th position. This is the battle for the number 8. This is Bertie Bream trying to get around the outside of championship leader Mike Thompson as they head their way through the Island Bend and into the braking zone, of course, as they head their way into Shell Oils. It is Mike Thompson in the red and black car, though, the head of that train. 14th position at the moment is where they run. Bertie Bream behind, and then Hale behind that before we've got Scott Evans, and then Nolan and Darling, who's right at the rear end of the field. More mirrors being filled as they flick their way through the chicane, the left and the right, and then up to Hilltop before they'll get under the brakes into the Hislop chicane and work their way, of course, up and towards the iconic corners at Druids and such. There is the number 8 of Bertie Bream trying to defend from the number... Oh, that's been not a good lap at the moment then from Bridges, who's dropped back a little bit. That purple and green car was 11th at the start of this lap, now currently runs down in about 15th spot, so not a particularly good start to the race. Of course, some of these faster drivers that have had issues in qualifying, dropping into the rear, they're all trying to get themselves back into the mix and work their way through as cleanly and as quickly as possible. And where they're just trying to navigate and work their way through. There is the number 44, Scott Evans, of course. It's Hale ahead in the number 46. There could be a move here down at the first corner at Old Hall as the 64 of Hale. The 64 rather of Hussey is going to defend here, and there comes the inside move. It's the 44 of Evans working their way down the inside on the 64 of Hussey, and it is Evans then up into 12th position at the moment. So marching through this field, as you can see as well, Mike Thompson as well up to 10th, and that is a big hit into the barrier for Craig Horvath. There is quite a lot of damage on the rear left of that. Must have got onto the curb. You can see where the tyre marks take us over to the right-hand side of the circuit. So it's clearly got beached on the curb and sent round and into the barrier. That will almost certainly be a safety car intervention. We'll just hope he's all right inside that car. It's Craig Horvath. At the moment, though, it's Max Watt leading the race, having set the fastest lap on the previous, and currently leads by 2.3 seconds over Faye Noble Evans. Ben Grucock in 3rd position with Shears, then Darcy, Mason, Warner, Hafner, then Levy, and of course Thompson. This is the look at the fight for 4th position. You've got Shears, you've got Darcy as well. Darcy in the number 27, trying to attack the rear end and try and find a way through. And of course, this is really the battle for the podium, because Ben Grucock's not that far up the road, as there's also been a spin for Nolan as well. Unfortunately, safety car has been deployed by race control, so unfortunately we'll see that one jump its way out onto the circuit for the first time, as they'll head their way down on the backstretch into Lodge Corner. There's confirmation of the safety car. That is obviously to recover Horvath's car at the opening turn of the circuit. And there is the safety car launching its way out onto the circuit. And you can see there, Marshall's already straight over to the number 25. Obviously, there are 2 races today here in the Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup. The second one will be coming up at 14:50, so 10 to 3. Now, that sounds like a really long time away. And yeah, these cars, they are built pretty strong, and you can get them repaired quite, with relative simplicity. However, I wouldn't be too surprised if that might be a little bit too much damage to get it out before about 3 o'clock here in Oulton Park. We'll have to wait and see. Though we'll keep our fingers crossed they are able to work some magic behind the scenes there in the number 25, but we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, though, of course, with Watt leading, that gap that had grown quite significantly has obviously been cut down massively. That said, the pace advantage for Watt at the front end of the field is quite drastic compared to those behind. I mean, the best lap time from Max Watt was a 1 minute 58.065, which plays to Faye Noble Evans's 159.3. So around 1.3 seconds faster was Max Watt. Ben Grucock running a 2 minute .012. Obviously looking for those like Mike Thompson that were starting their way from the back of the field, obviously not really getting a clean lap of running a 2 minute .129. For the likes of Thompson, though, who is now up in 9th position after starting from the rear, the championship leader, chances of getting a solid result here very high. Obviously already inside the top 10, but what else is possible? It's not that boring, mate. Calm down. That's a big yawn as well. My goodness. Max Watt, though, maybe he's feeling the same kind of thing in that car. That said, he's kept his eyes focused in the opening stage of the race, and Faye Noble Evans now will get a second shot at trying to attack for the race lead once that car is, of course, recovered. And same for some of those drivers, the likes of Nolan, that obviously had that spin. Like the opportunity now to come back together and to potentially have another shot at moving your way up the order. Of course, for those drivers that were starting at the rear end of the field, that had worked their way through a few positions as the field had started to string out. Now suddenly there is the potential opportunity for you to maybe gain those few more spots. We'll have to wait and see. The order, obviously, whilst they're running under the safety car, if you haven't joined us a bit earlier on, it's Max Watt leading, Faye Noble Evans, Ben Grucock. Then we've got Shears, Darcy, Mason, Warner, Hafner, Mike Thompson, and Levy the top 10. With Bertie Bream in 11th position, Scott Evans in 12th position, then Hussey, then Darling, then of course Bridges, Dye, Hale, Nolan, and of course Craig Horvath are now out of the race. Like I said, for Nolan, back onto the rear end of the train. You can see there the white and red. I was going to say the white and red Porsche Boxster, but they're all Boxsters. They're right at the rear end of the train, has rejoined. Not 100% sure as to how that spin happened, but it is quite easy to get a bit of a spin around the circuit. There's quite a few corners where you'll potentially get it. It's a tricky circuit, arguably one of the hardest of the season, where it's a circuit that can really bite. Obviously, you've got corners like Knickerbrook, which is the one where you go uphill after the Hislop chicane. It goes from right to left and then right and then back up the hill. That one, there's a big curb on the left-hand side that can catch you out. You've got the Britain chicane, which is the one that we did see Nolan spin at. Obviously, you've got the opening corner at Old Hall. Basically, I could list off all the corners, which are pretty difficult. In these kind of slower speed cars, you don't typically see as many problems at what is typically a difficult corner around here, like for example Druids, which is the penultimate corner on the circuit. It's the double right-hander. You don't generally see quite as many problems at this level as you would do in if you watch British GT or GP2, things like that, or GP4, things like that. You don't typically see as many problems as you would do in those at this kind of level, or maybe even when we send the Porsche Club Motorsport cars out a little bit later on in the day, that can become a little bit harder because of the far higher speed that's being taken through Druids. Obviously, the safety car remains out. The timer is ticking down. 14 minutes left to go at the moment. It will take us another couple of minutes to get this lap complete under the safety car. The safety car laps are about just under 4 minutes around this circuit, which should hopefully give the marshals enough time to get that car out of the way. But of course, it's not just about getting the car out of the way. It's then about making sure that the barrier is repaired sufficiently for should there be another incident. Of course, obviously, if one car's got there, a second potentially can as well. So everything has to be repaired and up to scratch as it was at the start of the race. And of course, the marshals do work hard to make sure that is the case, to make sure it's as safe as possible. But all these drivers in these cars, of course, if you watch Formula 1 and stuff, where everyone's getting team radios, this, that and the other, They don't get anything in this. They're just driving around. They get, maybe like some communication in the form of a pit board or something. Even then, not really. Not this. You're literally just driving around, keeping your head in the game, watching the safety car lights, watching all the marshal posts around. And it's always kind of one of those ones where almost the lower down you are in motorsport, the club championships, understanding and having like that feel for when to start warming your tyres, when to start doing this, when to start doing that, if it's actually necessary. It's almost harder at this level than it is even higher up, because you have so much more information higher up. At this, you kind of just have to make it up and hope for the best, to be perfectly honest. And that's where the true skill of the driver comes in. Safety car lights are out then, and so this is it, where all the other drivers back down the field. They'll have to look far into the distance to watch that safety car run away. And for Max Watt, once again, the control is taken over. And with just about 12 minutes left to go, we'll be back racing down into that first corner. And Max Watt down into the last at Lodge will take us through the right-hander, dropping down the hill, rising back up at Deer Leap, and retaking control of the Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup race here, the opening race at Oulton Park. Back down in the first corner, it's Watt leading from Noble Evans, from Ben Grucock, who was feeling the pressure from Shears and from Darcy behind. Pre-safety car, Faye Noble Evans and Max Watt both had basically pretty calm and comfortable races up until this point. There's already some side-by-side. That'll be Mike Thompson getting past Hafner as they work their way down the hill. And it will indeed be the move. So up to 8th position then comes Mike Thompson in that black and red car. Next one already being ticked off is Warner. That's the 51 getting passed by the number 6. Thompson is flying into the island bend. There's Faye Noble Evans in 2nd position. Already a gap growing comfortably between Noble Evans and the groups behind. Ben Grucock once again feeling the pressure. Mike Thompson could indeed be on for a podium here. There was a bit of a look to the inside there coming in from Barrington Darcy. But Darcy not able to get himself alongside Shears, and in the background there was some more battling. I think that might have been between Hafner and Warner as they work their way into the Britain's chicane. That black and red car ominously sitting on the horizon as they drop their way down Hilltop, closing in bit by bit. There comes the move to the inside. That is the 44 of Scott Evans in the distinctive blue and black car, and there off the road goes Perry Darling. So the black and green car of Perry Darling's gone off the road and has been repassed by Levy in the 60. I think it's dropped back a little bit on the race start. There is the number 60 losing a couple of positions. Was right behind Mike Thompson on the restart, but has already dropped back to, I believe, about 14th spot on the road as they head their way through Druids and back out down the final stretch and that run into the last corner. There goes the look to the inside, not just for Mike Thompson, but that was a big moment as well coming in from Mason, just getting it all crossed up on the exit of the final corner as Bertie Bream and Mike Thompson were both able to work their way through. Bream, of course, in the silver, orange and black car, Mike Thompson in the black and red as they head their way then through the first corner. Scott Evans not too far behind to potentially work his way through as well. Where are these lot going to end up? Fastest lap of the race just came in, not from Mike Thompson, but from Bertie Bream behind, a 58.037. It was 11 thousandths of a second faster than your race leader Max Watt, but more importantly, that was done whilst making moves, whilst not in clean air. Max Watt has a 3-second lead. Most likely it's sorted and settled, but for those behind, for the podium fight even, it certainly isn't. You can see how much the likes of Ben Grucock's trying to hang on at the moment from Shears and from Darcy. And they're about to be joined by 2 heavy hitters, including the championship leader himself. Mike Thompson will be the next one onto the scene. Currently runs in 6th position. It'll probably be 5th in no time. There comes a look down the inside from Barrington Darcy. Can't quite do it there as they work their way into his lops, as they'll head their way now through Knickerbrook and up the hill. It is still in this fight for 3rd. Grucock, then Shears, then Darcy, then Thompson, then Bream. The 5 cars in the fight for the final step on the podium. Faye Noble Evans is not too far clear of this group yet. As she works her way into the likes of Druids. This is probably the best opportunity as well for Bream to get past Thompson whilst there is a delay ahead, whilst there is drama ahead, whilst there is the opportunity for a move, especially as we see this. Shears looking down the inside of Grucock, more defending from Barrington Darcy behind though in that black and pink martini livery. Here comes the drive then off of the final corner, up through Dearleap and then up towards the line. Is this going to be the opportunity for Thompson to make a move? Barrington Darcy sends one into the first corner, but once again that outside line at the opening turn is so powerful and so potent, and Thompson, whilst looking down the inside, could lose out here as they're side by side going to the outside comes Bertie Bream as they work their way onto the brakes into the second corner of the circuit. It is Bream now ahead of Mike Thompson. Said that this was probably the best opportunity to make that spot up, and as they were heading down into Cascades, the opportunity was there, and once again out into the barrier. It's the 71 now who's gone off and into the barrier at the first turn. As we saw earlier, it is of course Dye, who unfortunately off the road in a very, very similar instance from what we saw with Craig Horvath earlier. So Simon Dye will be out of the race, and most likely it'll be the requirement of another safety car, which will be frustrations for especially for Thompson and for Bream. Thompson, by the way, having got past Bream again. Thankfully, Simon Dye has got back going again. Whether they'll still need to repair the barrier, we'll have to wait and see. Fastest lap of the race did come in once again from Bertie Bream on the previous lap, just as reference, as Mike Thompson's got back past on Bream and now has got straight down the inside on Shears, who decides to straight line the chicane there at Hislop's. Will rejoin here as it's side by side once again between Thompson and Bream, heading through Knickerbrook and now up Clay Hill. There is the car moving around at the moment on the circuit of Simon Dye, so confirmation that it definitely did get out of the barrier and has got back going again. I think it hasn't broken the suspension, it's just ripped the rear panel off of the rear end of the car. So hopefully it'll be good enough to get back to the pit lane where they can maybe even start making up a game plan for how to deal with the next race of the day, obviously in a few hours' time. This is the battle for third position with still 5 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. Fastest lap just comes in from Max Watt. It's 57.664. Is this group going to go faster in the hands of Mike Thompson, in the hands of Bertie Bream? No, they are not. They were fighting far too hard. There comes a look to the inside from Mike Thompson in the 06. Cannot do anything. Big snap of oversteer. Once again coming in, though, from Barrington Darcy as they head their way through the first corner at Old Hall. Scott Evans not quite got the speed to catch up to this group, and once again there's a switch behind as Mike Thompson has been passed by Bream. So Bream's back up now into 5th position as there's the look to the inside coming in from Barrington Darcy. But it's a good exit coming off at the second corner at Cascades for that bright green car of Ben Grucock. Leaves the door wide open though at the Island Bend and gets under the brakes to back out of it as there goes Bertie Bream round the outside of one, round the inside of the other, and straight now up into 3rd position. Mike Thompson needs to get the move done on Barrington Darcy as soon as he can, because at the moment it's Bream in 3rd, it's Barrington Darcy in 4th, it's Mike Thompson in 5th, and then of course dropping back down now into 6th position is Ben Grucock in that bright green Porsche Boxster. Over hilltop they go, and then down the hill. Can they close their way back in on Faye Noble Evans again? A reminder that the car in the foreground you shot there, the 08 car, and of course that black and red car in the background, had to start this race from the rear end of the field. And in 25 minutes, or really 21 minutes, they've been able to work their way through up into the podium battle. With 4 minutes left to go, dependent on time, I think we'll only have time for 2 more laps in this race. It's Max Watt leading by 7 seconds at the moment, so we'll be crossing the line fairly shortly to start the penultimate lap of this race. And unless he's going to set some unbelievable lap times, it will indeed be the penultimate lap of the race. We'll have 1 more or 2 more after this point. So here we go then up towards the first corner. Battle for 2nd position then. Faye Noble Evans at the moment in 2nd spot. There comes the look to the inside. Bream's going to send it, and there is the position for 2nd. Unfortunately, that safety car has dropped Faye Noble-Evans back into the clutches of this group, and there is potentially more drama yet to come as there comes a look to the inside. Barrington Darcy is through into third. Mike Thompson has to settle still for fifth position at the moment as Faye Noble-Evans has run wide going into Cascades. And could that be the opportunity working their way down into Island Bend and into the Shallow Oils hairpin for Mike Thompson to work their way through? It certainly is. And Mike Thompson through on Faye Noble-Evans, up now into fourth spot. So Max Watt, 5.1 seconds clear. One bit of drama though, and it'll be open. And I will say the last lap was a 2-minute 2.3 from Max Watt. Bertie Breams, get this, was a 1-minute 57.5. That is 5 seconds faster on one lap. Now, I do believe there was a mistake from Max Watt, because Watt can do 1:57.6. That's his personal best lap of the race. Bertie Bream did set the fastest lap of the race on the previous one, and also on this lap has had to make a bit of a move as well. But point is that 5.1 second gap is catchable as they head their way then through Knickerbrook, up Clay Hill, getting ready for Druids once more. Faye Noble-Evans dropping off the rear end. Ben Grewcock though a little bit too far behind to potentially mount a charge for a top 5 position. Sliding their way in to Druids they go as they're in full commitment, or as close to it as you can possibly get in these cars, and onto the brakes into the final corner for Barrington Darcy. I think there'll be no aspirations of even a victory here, because as much as you can see that car getting closer and closer, they'll be well aware that time's ticking down in this race as we start the final lap of this race. The gap for the race lead is 2.75 seconds. It is catchable. Last lap from Watt was a 2-minute 0.4. Last lap from Breen was a 1-minute 57.8. It was slightly faster than Barrington Darcy behind at a 57.7. And Mike Thompson behind that 57.8. This trio in second, third and fourth, they are faster than your race leader. They are fast enough to catch your race leader. Are they fast enough to catch and to pass though? That one we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure Watt will be aware to some degree about the cars in the background. One look in the mirrors and you'll be understanding that, oh, actually that 7-second gap has gone. Maybe I do need to push a little bit harder. And I say, Watt will do his best to try and control this at the moment. Has controlled the race so brilliantly up until this point as they head their way through the Britain chicane. 4 of them taking a very different line now. Max Watt was a little bit too fast into the corner. You could see with a bit of a slide on the exit. I think there was a little bit of debris out there as well, but obviously all the drivers navigating it without any issues. 30 seconds left to go in the race, so the timer is ticking down to 0 quickly. I think for this group, it's over. The charge is over. There is not enough time to close down and to pass Max Watt, who has seen the pressure coming in the mirror and has thought, okay, I'll step it up just that little bit more. As they head the way now into Druids, onto the final stretch on that race down into Lodge Corner. Not even this group are particularly close enough for any major dramas, and there'll be anything behind even that. There are a few potential opportunities for moves behind all this. But despite a little bit of drama in the middle of the race and potentially even the thought of the 3 behind catching, Max Watt has defied the odds and is coming across the line to take victory, and in doing so does respond with the fastest lap of the race. It ends up going the way the fastest lap for Mike Thompson, but Watt responded on the final lap to pull out a 2.3 second lead on the field. It's Bream from Darcy, from Thompson the top 4. Bream and Thompson coming from the rear end of the field. Faye Noble-Evans in 5th position with Grewcock, Mason, Shears, Darling and Scott Evans the top 10. See the final races up towards the line and see if we'll get any really close efforts. At the moment we've got the closest being between Shears and Darling for 8th and 9th position. That was 1/10 of a second separating the two. As we look back down the order, this is the battle for 15th position. Hale and Hussey across the line. Bridges first, and there is Bridges in 14th position, then Hale in 15th, Hussey in 16th, before we'll wait for Nolan, who obviously had a couple of spins, and Simon Dye, who I believe is still out circulating despite that pretty big hit onto the barrier. Just once again, proves they do build these cars pretty strong. The fact that you can have that slide at the first corner, smack into the barrier, and still keep going. They are strong cars, these ones. But there is your race winner. Strong car, fast mentality as well. Dealt with the pressure behind. I think that whole dropping back into the 2-minute twos and such, that was just about controlling the race, controlling the mindset. As soon as those cars started appearing in the mirror, there was no way that gap was going to come down much closer than that, and so dealt with it brilliantly. Did what? Here's your provisional race results then. It's Watt from Breen by 2.3 seconds, with Darcy, Thompson and Noble Evans the top 5. Ben Grucock in 6th position, with Mason, then Shears, Darling in 9th position, and Scott Evans rounding out the top 10. Fastest lap going the way of your championship leader, Mike Thompson. The rest of the order behind that is Warner from Hafnam, then Levy, then Bridges and Hale, of course, with Hussey. Nolan finishing just about a minute, and Simon Dye finishing a lap down with that hit on the barrier. Unfortunately, Craig Horvath in the same corner having a hit in the barrier, but unfortunately unable to progress through the race. So a retirement from that one. The Boxster Cup Championship will of course be back at 14:50 local time. Of course, that is 2:50 here in the UK. The Boxster Cup Championship for its second race, and of course that will start the second half of the championship as well, because we are now officially halfway through the season. They'll all bring their way back into pit lane, and we'll see you at just before 3 o'clock when the Boxster Cup Championship will return to the Oulton Park circuit. Until then, thank you very much for joining us. Have a very warm goodbye.